Terra's Story, Chapter 11. That night, Terra wasn't quite so exhausted. Having even one ally makes such a difference, someone I can be all parts of myself with. She felt like the talk with Joni helped pull together her Molokai experience and the day she was living now. Even after lunch, through the meeting with Captain Gallagher, and their strategy session on the Dead Angel's perpetrator, she still felt pretty centered, though she felt a need to get away from concrete and into trees. Thank goodness for the park. Tomorrow I'll run again, she promised herself. Terra stepped out on the balcony. Below her, the forest in the park was an oasis of quiet. The breeze was strong enough to have the treetops waving, which made the light from the street lamps flicker like fairy lights. Through the scudding clouds she could make out stars, so much fainter here than on Molokai. Light pollution. Ugh, but she caught herself. Thank you. That night, Terra relived the pool where she had dived with the Mo into another part of reality. Fully lucid in the dream, it was as though her soul were reminding her to let who she had become then become part of her world now. The scene shifted. She saw a dark figure sneaking through the trees at the edge of the playground. The girl on the swing leaned back and pumped her legs to go higher, her face alight with speed and fun. Something inside Terra switched, and she stalked into the scene, hissing and swinging her tail, making trees on either side crash to the ground. The dark figure stopped, listened, turned, and ran away. She stalked after it, snaking out her long, preternaturally long tongue, trying to capture it, but it evaporated in front of her slitted eyes. She hissed again and clicked her teeth, those rows of sharp teeth. Next time, she hissed, and turned to look back at the girl-child still swinging as high as she could go, oblivious. The dream fragments tapered into nothingness, and Terra smiled as she slipped into the empty, alive darkness. There was a close call last night, Cap announced, his face somber as he leaned against the door jamb of Terra's office. A girl who fits the victim profile was in Rock Creek Park last night. Her father was coming back from the restroom when he saw somebody sneaking up on her while she was swinging. He said he started to run, but he was too far away. You know, the swings in that park have trees and picnic tables all around. The guy was sort of crouched, like he was about to jump out and grab her, when a couple of trees crashed over. Then he ran like hell. Trees crashed over? How? Terra felt a jolt at Cap's words. She remembered the swish of her tail in her rage. But that was a dream, wasn't it? Cap shook his head. No idea. The Park Service said they were big trees, too, not rotten or anything. Looked like they'd been hit with a blunt instrument about 5 feet off the ground. If they'd been near the drive, I'd have thought a car hit 'em at speed, but you can't go that fast on that twisty road. Besides, in that kind of situation, trees usually win. Anyhow, you need to jump on this while it's fresh. The scene's been taped off, but you'd better get out there soon as you can. You know how much attention people pay to those tapes, not. He sighed and turned, bumping into Joni, who had been behind him, listening. Joni, goddammit, give me a break here, will ya? Cap complained. Can I go too, Cap? I'm certified now, Joni begged. I know, I got word that you passed, he smirked. Okay, you were third in the class, congratulations. Yeah, you can go too. He glanced back at Terra, now collecting her stuff. Kano, looks like you're not the Lone Ranger anymore. You got a Tonto to sidekick with you now. He turned back to Joni, who was beaming and stuck a finger in her face. But the research is still top priority. I can't sacrifice that. Of course, Cap, I got it. As soon as he walked away, Joni lifted her arms and sashayed through the door in a little happy dance. Terra smiled at her antics, then switched gears. Come on, Joni, let's get out there and see what we can find. Holy shit, Terra? Those are some pretty damn big trees. How did you feel anything when your tail hit them? Terra shook her head. Then when you're in that form, you're not anything like a normal Mo. This is definitely supernatural, Joni declared. I guess I thought it was just a dream. She looked around. They were young pines, yes, but still, 10 inches thick. Clearly not just a dream, boss, Joni stated, hands on her hips. Then she waved at the ground, where the earth was churned in a pattern of waves that repeated every 6 feet or so. Cap didn't comment on this, did he? It was a statement of fact, not a question. Did anybody comment? This is a pretty dramatic trail. Terra shook her head. How could no one notice? Joni concurred, scanning the debris. Unless it's one of those cases that you can't see what your mind doesn't know how to process. Or, she turned back toward Terra, or unless some thing created some kind of block, like a veil to keep what they saw from registering in their brain. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Terra started walking the perimeter where she'd seen, in her dream, the perp crouched. Here, Joni, the ground is soggy here. There's a print. Terra carefully swished aside some leaves that had fallen, partially obscuring the imprints from the coarse tread of work boots. Look, deeper at the front. He was crouching, so his weight was toward his toes. He was getting ready to spring. Joni peered at the ground, clicked away with her camera, then reached into her case for the plaster powder and water. These casts might help us ID the brand of boot he was wearing. From the looks of it, Terra, he's a pretty big guy. Terra shivered at the chill that ran through her, but Joni continued. But clearly, not as big as the moe that scared him away. So that's what happened. Dad, it's been an interesting re-entry. Terra sighed. Kayla grinned. I'll tell Simeona tomorrow, sweetie. This is big news. I know you'd like to have told her directly. Will she ever get a computer, do you think? Or even a smartphone? It's so frustrating, Dad. Terra complained. He snorted. What do you think? And you know what she says. Yes, she's told me the same thing at least 1,000 times. All this techie stuff just mimics what humans in their right minds can do. Is she right, do you think? They'd had this conversation before. I know she's right, Terra, but how many people do you know who are in their right minds the way she means? Terra wilted, but popped back. At least one, Dad. You. He came right back at her. And you too, Terra. At least before you got so caught up in the outside world. We used to telepath long conversations. Yeah, but those long conversations felt almost instantaneous. I remember you could get pretty insistent when I was out, and you wanted me to get my butt home. Like you were shouting at me. Energetically. Terra had nearly forgotten, and she was glad now that those days were behind her. I was worried about you, sweetheart. You were so naive, and you thought you could handle anything. But you haven't lost the ability, Terra. Even before you came back, I could read your signals at times you weren't broadcasting on purpose. What worried me was that you weren't getting my responses. You'd stopped listening to incoming. That's what scared me. I'm sorry, Dad, Terra whispered. Honey, I'm not mad. That's not the point. The point is to keep the channels open, to communicate intentionally. He shifted to look out the window and started to laugh. Guess who just drove up? Clearly you're still broadcasting. Is it a ratty old Jeep? Terra asked, surprised but not surprised. Kale didn't have to answer. She heard the footsteps on the porch, the familiar stomp shuffle as Simeona pulled her abundant body up the steps and traipsed into the house. She's still on that thing with you, Kale? Don't let her leave yet. I gotta tell her something. Simeona huffed a little as she reached the desk where Kale was rising from the chair in front of the computer. She eased into the place where he'd been and peered at the screen. Terra! Hi, Mamo. I'm so glad you came. I gotta tell you what. Terra stammered. No need, child. I had the same, well, we'll call it a dream. Better not try to define it too closely. I just want you to know for sure that it was real. Simeona settled back in the chair, which groaned a little with her abundance. You did? Terra's jaw hung open. She was so shocked. Simeona chuckled. Close your mouth, Han, before something flies in. Then her face shifted. Yes, she repeated, probably 'cause Mama wanted to make sure you got it, that it's real. Having a witness helps. Now that you know you can do that, shift like that, and anybody can shift into whatever other being they want, once they learn how, now you can do it on purpose. And that's just part of why I'm here. You're transmitting loud and clear, but you're not receiving so well. How come? I don't know. Terra stuttered, then caught herself. Wait a minute, those flashes... Yes, Han, that's what I'm talking about, Simeona interrupted. Mamo, it frustrates me when you read my mind like this. What the... Terra took a deep breath. I guess I didn't realize those were, incoming calls. What? You want to ding like those dumb phones you use? You were much better at this when you were little, you know. But then, Simeona rubbed her eyes, that's how most folks are. They get into the grown-up part of their lives, which means they gotta spend some time in the Matrix and play those games, and they stop trusting what they knew. Kale laughed from the armchair in the reading corner where he'd relocated. It's okay, Terra. Simeona and I had this same conversation when I realized I had to leave Washington, D.C. The good news is that all you have to do is adjust your antenna a little. Humph, Simeona grunted. And practice trusting yourself again. But that's enough talk about that. Just remember, soul gifts don't rely on a physical battery, but they do require a psychic one. You gotta keep your soul charged up, like you gotta keep your body charged up. You know how to do that. Now, change the subject. Does it help to know you saved that little girl? And you're probably gonna be able to protect others too. This bad man is only one person, though he's got a host of demons in him. Seems like your Mo'o self has his scent. Knows how to track him. Oh, the realization hit Terra like one of the big waves off Molokai. So if I pay attention to the signals, right, those signals have a different energetic signature from the communications you have with me and Kale, or with your girls, but they'll grab your attention when the demons take hold again. Simeona spoke calmly, but a shiver still raced across Terra's skin. And when I get the signal, Terra thought out loud. You get quiet and tune in, Simeona prompted. You might get a sense of where he is and how worked up he is. It's that frenzy energy that triggered you. Next time it happens, you may not have time to do anything in ordinary reality, but you can switch interdimensionally outside of time. He'll be a little wary the next time, 'cause now he met you, and if you show up that way again... But I want to catch him, Mamo, not scare him off, Terra shot back, her frustration mounting. Child, you got no control over what this man's demons will make him do. Isn't it more important to protect these girls? Simeona insisted. Of course it is. Terra started breathing again. I don't want even one more dead angel, but I want to put this murderer away. You will, Terra. I can feel it, but it's not going to happen immediately. Besides, his demons have your scent now, the same way you have his. They're trying to figure out what happened, so don't be surprised if... Simeona stopped, knowing Terra already knew. If he goes underground again? Terra snapped, her frustration boiling over. Han? The way Simeona said it, the word stopped her like a hand holding her back. Just because you're expanding into a different state of being, don't mean you can control how things play out. Let it go. You've come far. You finally admitted you were in over your head. Well, you still are, Terra, and you always will be, just like me. Just like Kale here. There's always more. Simeona's face filled the screen as she leaned in. That's why these abilities to speak and hear and move across dimensions are so important. What you've got to do now is practice. Practice communicating. And practice going with the flow. The openings you want will come. I promise. In the meantime, you're refining your skill. You're learning to understand what's coming to you and how to search the ethers for information. You're learning how to make use of your inner Mo'o. She's got a lot to teach you, and she'll be a comfort to you too. Take the time to work on that relationship.